The sky cracked open one night, like the shattering of a colossal glass dome. Cities trembled under the low hum of unseen engines. From the darkness, immense ships shaped like jagged crystals descended without warning. No one knew where they came from, no one understood why. Only one thing was certain: humanity was under observation, and perhaps judgment. Captain Elias Veyne stood on the roof of the new Arcadia command tower, eyes wide as the largest of the alien ships hovered over the city. His jaw tightened. The council had called them the Krithar, a species of unfathomable intellect and precision, but as far as Earth scientists could tell, devoid of empathy. Their movements were like the turning of machinery, swift, exact, relentless. "Sir, the ships are scanning." Lieutenant Mira Solen's voice trembled as she spoke through the comlink. Her usually calm tone betrayed fear. "They're analyzing our energy grids, our communications, everything." Elias exhaled, running a hand through his thick black hair. "Prepare the defense matrix. If they attack," he paused, swallowing, "we'll respond with everything humanity has." But deep inside, a nagging doubt gnawed at him. The Krithar weren't just invaders, they were observers of strategy. And humans, with all their courage and creativity, often relied on tactics shaped by instinct, culture, and emotion. Could they outthink a race that treated war as a perfect equation? Meanwhile, across the globe, ordinary people watched the skies. Children pressed their faces against windows, their laughter replaced by awe and a flicker of fear. Families huddled in shelters, whispering prayers or clinging to each other for comfort. Humanity was united in terror and wonder, a fragile, extraordinary bond forming in the shadow of alien might. Elias and Mira studied the first wave of the Krithar drones as they hovered silently, their crystalline exteriors glinting in the city lights. The drones made no noise, emitted no radiation, and displayed no signs of aggression. Yet every soldier on the planet instinctively knew these machines were designed for absolute calculation. They watched, analyzed, and would strike where humans were weakest. "Elias," Mira said, pointing to a screen showing the drone's movement patterns. "They aren't attacking randomly. They're testing us, probing for our strategies." Elias's mind raced. He had trained for countless scenarios, read countless reports of alien encounters in theory, but nothing in the history books could prepare anyone for the cold, clinical intelligence of the Krithar. Yet somewhere, buried under the fear, he felt a spark of defiance. Humans weren't predictable machines. They improvised, they adapted, and sometimes their hearts gave them strength machines could never calculate. On the other side of the world, in a small coastal town, a girl named Liora Keene watched the sky. She was only 14, but her mind was sharp. Her father, a retired engineer, had taught her how to build small drones and code rudimentary AI. Tonight, that knowledge might save lives, or so she hoped. "They don't understand us," she whispered. "They can't understand hope," and perhaps she was right. The Krithar strategy, precise and overwhelming, relied on the assumption that all beings would behave logically, follow patterns, and succumb to fear when confronted with impossible odds. But humans sometimes acted against reason, led by courage, loyalty, or the sheer refusal to give in. Elias watched as the first real movement came. A single drone descended into the city, small enough to navigate the streets with alarming agility. Soldiers prepared to fire, but Mira held up a hand. "Wait, they're not attacking." Yet, the drone hovered near a street vendor's cart, scanning, analyzing, recording. Then, as if satisfied, it ascended back to the mothership. "Do you see what I mean?" Mira asked, her voice low. "It's not just war. It's psychology. They're learning how we think, how we feel." Elias clenched his fists. "Then we'll do what we do best. We'll confuse them. We'll fight like humans fight, with heart, with courage, and with ideas they can't predict." Above the city, the largest ship pulsed with an eerie blue light. For a moment, the night sky felt alive, as if the universe itself were holding its breath. And somewhere in the midst of fear and uncertainty, humanity's first act of defiance began, not with firepower, but with the simplest, most dangerous weapon of all: hope. The Krithar had arrived, calculating, cold, and unyielding. But humans had something no strategy could account for: unpredictability, emotion, and the unrelenting desire to survive. And that was only the beginning. The morning after the arrival, New Arcadia looked like a city trapped between two worlds, ordinary in its chaos, yet under an alien shadow that made every heartbeat feel amplified. Smoke rose from overturned cars. Streets were eerily silent except for the occasional whistle of emergency sirens, and above it all, the colossal crystalline ships loomed like frozen mountains. Captain Elias Veyne stood at the center of the makeshift command hub, surrounded by officers whose faces carried exhaustion, fear, and determination in equal measure. He tapped a map of the city, fingers tracing possible choke points. "They've learned quickly," he said, voice low. "Their drones adapt to every tactic we try. Every ambush we set, they avoid." Lieutenant Mira Solen leaned over his shoulder. "It's like fighting against a mind that predicts ours before we even think it. Every plan we have, every standard procedure, it's obsolete the moment they see it." Elias nodded grimly. "Then we'll do what humans do best. We'll break the rules. We'll fight in ways they can't anticipate. They calculate logic. We calculate chaos." Across the city, Liora Keene prepared her small drone network with trembling hands. Her father had given her the tools, but tonight she would give them a soul. Each drone was rigged not for attack, but for distraction. Lights, sound bursts, unpredictable movements, all designed to disrupt the Krithar's perfect calculations. She named each one: flicker, whisper, and blink. "If they can't predict us, maybe we can survive," she whispered. By afternoon, the first engagement began. A squad of human soldiers, led by Elias, moved to intercept a drone unit attempting to access the city's power grid. They advanced cautiously through narrow streets, weapons ready, but every step revealed the alien mind at work. Drones hovered just beyond the effective range of human fire, scanning, adapting, probing. "Hold your positions," Elias ordered. "Wait for the signal." The Krithar were patient predators. They moved with silence, almost elegance, as if testing the human's nerves. But then from the rooftops, Liora's drones flickered to life. Lights flashed, creating phantom movements across the streets. Tiny bursts of sound mimicked soldiers, tricking the alien sensors. One drone, confused by the false data, collided with a holographic barrier Liora had set up in a narrow alley. Sparks flew. For a brief moment, a ripple of human triumph spread through the squad. Elias seized the opportunity. "Now!" he shouted. Soldiers fired coordinated volleys, using the chaos as cover to disable several drones. The Krithar for the first time hesitated, but hesitation was fleeting. The aliens recalibrated instantly, adapting to the human unpredictability. One massive drone descended from the ship above, its crystalline surface refracting sunlight into a blinding assault. The humans scattered, taking cover where they could. Mira shouted, "It's learning! It's adapting to our distractions." Elias gritted his teeth. "Then we have to change again. Faster, smarter, more human." In the midst of the battle, ordinary citizens played their part. Street vendors armed with kitchen knives and batons created diversions. Children screamed from windows, startling drones that were unprepared for emotion and chaos. Fear became a weapon no alien calculation could fully anticipate. Liora's heart pounded as she watched her drones move through the streets, guiding human squads, distracting enemies, and occasionally drawing fire. Her father's voice echoed in her mind. "Courage isn't absence of fear, it's acting anyway." By nightfall, the city had suffered damage, but humanity had also won its first small victories. Drones were disabled, the power grid partially secured, and the citizens who survived had begun to believe that the Krithar were not invincible. Elias surveyed the city from the command hub. Smoke rose from the horizon, lights flickered in the chaos, yet he felt an unfamiliar warmth. The feeling of hope, fragile but unyielding. Mira stood beside him, her face illuminated by the glow of monitors. "They're not just machines," Elias said. "They're mirrors. They reflect what they see in us. And tonight we showed them our heart." Mira nodded slowly. "But tomorrow, they'll come back stronger, faster, smarter, and they'll remember everything we did." Elias clenched his fists. "Then tomorrow we'll fight again. And the day after, and the day after that. They may learn our strategies, but they can never learn our spirit. They can never calculate courage, hope, or love. Those are human weapons they will never master." Above the city, the alien ships pulsed softly, scanning, analyzing, preparing. They had faced resistance before, surely, but never like this. Never from creatures who fought not because they had to, but because they refused to surrender. And in that moment, despite fear, chaos, and uncertainty, humanity made its first unspoken declaration to the stars. We may fall, we may fail, but we will never yield. Night fell over New Arcadia like a velvet shroud. But the city was far from peaceful. Fires from the day's clashes flickered across crumbling streets, casting dancing shadows that seemed almost alive. In every ruined alley, every shattered building, the echoes of humanity's defiance lingered. Yet alongside pride simmered fear, a fear that the Krithar would return. Wiser, faster, deadlier. Captain Elias Veyne stood atop the command tower once more, gazing at the faintly glowing horizon where the alien ships loomed. Each pulse of their crystal hulls was a reminder that the invaders were learning, calculating patterns, testing every move humans made. He had never felt more vulnerable nor more determined. Mira Solen approached, holding a digital tablet displaying real-time drone behavior analysis. Elias, they've adapted already. The drones now ignore simple distractions. Our last tactics, they barely react. Elias's jaw tightened. Then we escalate. They expect logic, patterns, predictable chaos. Let's give them something they can't predict. Let's fight with humanity itself. Meanwhile, in a ruined apartment, Liora Keene crouched by her control panel, sweat streaking her face. Her small fleet of drones, once a novelty, had become critical instruments in the city's defense. Yet even her ingenuity had limits. The Krithar were fast learners, adapting to her patterns almost as soon as she deployed them. They understand patterns, but not intuition, she whispered to herself. They can't read fear. They can't read hope. And she was right. Humanity's strength was not in weapons, not in strategy manuals or AI-assisted predictions. It was in unpredictability, in emotion, in choices made against all odds. The first test of that truth came swiftly. The alien drones descended on Sector 7, a residential area filled with narrow streets and high-rise apartments. Soldiers were ready, weapons primed, citizens hid, some aiding the defenders with improvised tools, others cowering in their homes. Fear hung heavy, yet resolve shimmered brighter. "Hold your fire until they enter the street," Elias ordered. The first wave of drones glimmered in the darkness, silent and precise. They moved in formation, scanning, probing. But then chaos erupted. A child screamed from a balcony, startling a drone into collision with a water tower. Sparks flew, water hissed, and for the first time the perfect alien system faltered. "Now!" Elias shouted. Human squads surged from hidden positions, improvising attacks. Some fought with weapons, others used debris, smoke, and mirrors to disorient the drones. Liora's drones streaked overhead, weaving through the enemy's sensors, creating unpredictable movements that no alien algorithm could fully comprehend. The Krithar recalculated. Their crystalline forms shimmered as they adapted, but each recalibration was slower than before. They were precise, but precision could not match human creativity when guided by raw emotion. Yet victory was tempered with loss. Sergeant Kellen, one of Elias's most trusted officers, fell to a precise drone strike while guiding civilians to safety. His final words, shouted as he collapsed, were simple: "Keep fighting, human way." His sacrifice ignited a fire in the survivors' hearts. Elias held Kellen in his arms, feeling the weight of mortality and responsibility pressed down like never before. "We honor them by living," he whispered. "By fighting smarter, by surviving harder. That's what humans do." Liora, watching from a rooftop, felt a similar surge. The child whose scream had caused the first disruption was now crying in her arms, frightened but alive. And for the first time she realized something vital. Fear could be a weapon, too. A single act of courage could ripple through a battle and disrupt the invaders in ways strategy alone never could. Mira analyzed the battle data. Elias, the Krithar, they didn't anticipate the emotional variables. Fear, hope, desperation, we are their blind spot. Elias nodded. Exactly. They calculate patterns. But humans aren't patterns. We improvise, we sacrifice, we love. That unpredictability, it's our greatest weapon. And as the night stretched on, New Arcadia began to feel alive in a new way. The city's ruins were no longer symbols of defeat, but arenas of resilience. Every fire, every shadow, every shattered building was proof that humanity could endure, that while the Krithar calculated, humans felt, and feeling was something no algorithm could conquer. Above the skyline, the alien ships pulsed once more, observing, analyzing, but unaware that the true battle was not in weapons or drones, but in the hearts of those who refused to yield. And deep inside, Elias, Mira, and Liora all knew the same truth. Tomorrow would bring greater danger, But it would also bring new opportunities to show the aliens why human strategy always failed. Because humans were never just strategy. Humans were spirit. Humans were chaos. Humans were hope, and hope they realized was unstoppable. The city of New Arcadia had changed. Where streets were once bustling with ordinary life, there were now barricades, hidden trenches, and the restless movements of a people who refused to surrender. Fires still burned, smoke curling into the sky, but with every flicker, humans reminded themselves and the invaders that their world was not theirs to claim. Captain Elias Veyne walked among the soldiers, his uniform dust-streaked, boots scuffed, and eyes sharp. He noticed their fatigue, the strain in their movements, but also their determination. Every man and woman, soldier and civilian, carried the same silent message: we will endure. Lieutenant Mira Solen approached, carrying a tablet that showed updated Krithar patterns. They've begun coordinating attacks across sectors simultaneously. It's like they're learning faster than ever. If we don't adapt quickly, they'll isolate the city sector by sector. Elias frowned. Then we do the one thing they can't calculate. We unite the sectors in ways they won't expect. Humans fight together and together. We're unpredictable. Meanwhile, in the northern districts, Liora Keene worked feverishly. Her small fleet of drones now acted as a nervous system for the city's defenders. She watched screens tracking alien movements, her fingers flying over controls, her mind calculating hundreds of improvisational maneuvers at once. Yet even as she worked, fear gnawed at her. She paused for a moment, glancing out the window at the ruined cityscape. We're so small, she thought. But even the smallest spark can ignite a forest. That night, the Krithar launched their largest coordinated attack yet. From the sky, drones descended in perfect formation, their crystalline bodies reflecting city lights into sharp, blinding beams. The humans braced for impact, but Elias had prepared something different. Positions, he barked. Soldiers scattered into alleys, over rooftops, and behind barricades. Civilian volunteers activated Liora's drones in waves, creating a storm of lights, sounds, and sudden movements. Shadows leaped across the streets, creating the illusion of massive forces where only a few humans stood. The alien drones adjusted instantly, but humans had learned to act without waiting for orders, to improvise at a scale that no algorithm could anticipate. A schoolteacher armed with a flare distracted one drone, while a street kid on a makeshift pulley system sent debris into another. Each act was small, but together they formed a rhythm the aliens could not calculate. In the command hub, Elias watched as patterns emerged. They're hesitant, he murmured. Every time humans act unpredictably, they pause. Just enough for us to strike, Mira added, her voice tense but hopeful. It's like they're learning too slowly. They can't process human emotion fast enough to adapt. But the victory was shadowed by loss. Sector 9 fell under sudden assault, and reports streamed in of civilians caught in the chaos. Elias clenched his fists. We fight to save every life, he said quietly. But sometimes, survival is all we can guarantee. In that moment, Liora understood something profound. Humans were fragile. Humans were vulnerable, but they were also indomitable. Every act of bravery, every scream of fear, every tear shed was part of the same unbreakable thread. The desire to live, to resist, to fight with everything that made them human. As the night stretched on, the humans pushed back, driving several drones from the city with a combination of strategy, improvisation, and raw courage. But above, the alien ships remained, immense and unyielding, observing the chaos below. Elias stood atop the command tower once more, looking at the fractured but unbowed city. Mira joined him, shoulders tense, eyes shining. Do you think we can hold them? She asked. Elias shook his head, a faint smile touching his lips. Hold? No, we'll adapt. We'll survive. And one day, we'll make them realize that no matter how precise their calculations, no matter how powerful their machines, they can never understand the human heart. Liora, watching from a rooftop, whispered into the night, We're small. We're fragile. But we are alive. And alive. We are unstoppable. And as the alien ships pulsed with silent light above the city, one truth became undeniable. The Krithar could study humans, analyze tactics, and adapt endlessly. But they could not replicate courage, empathy, or hope. They could not calculate the spark that ignited every human heart. And in that spark, humanity found its greatest weapon. The city had become a battlefield of shadows and whispers. Every street, every alleyway, every shattered building was alive with anticipation. Every human heart beat a drum against the calculated precision of the Krithar. Yet despite exhaustion, fear, and loss, there remained a quiet determination. Humanity would not yield. Captain Elias Veyne surveyed the city from the highest vantage point he could find. Fires flickered across the skyline, casting a chaotic, ever-shifting light on the streets below. "They're regrouping," he said, voice tight. "But that's fine. Let them watch. We'll give them a surprise they can't predict." Lieutenant Mira Solen, standing beside him, nodded, fingers tapping furiously on a digital map. "We've identified weak points in their drone coordination," she said. "Not much, but enough. If we can synchronize human movements with Liora's drones, we can create a chain reaction." Elias's eyes lit up. "Then we do it. Every civilian, every volunteer, every squad. We fight like the humans we are. Let's turn fear into fire." Across the city, Liora Keene prepared her fleet. Flicker, whisper, blink. Her tiny drones hummed softly, ready to dance across rooftops, alleyways, and open streets. But Liora knew that success would not rely solely on machines. It would rely on humans acting with courage in the chaos, improvising when the plan inevitably failed, trusting one another when logic faltered. The first wave came at dawn. Alien drones glimmered under the rising sun, moving in perfect formation, anticipating patterns they believed they had predicted. Soldiers and civilians alike took positions, hearts hammering, breath shallow. "Now," Elias shouted. Liora's drones streaked into the streets, weaving between soldiers and civilians, lights flashing and sounds pulsing, creating a torrent of unpredictable movements. The Krithar paused, recalculating. They had never encountered this level of chaos. Their calculations assumed fear would paralyze humans, but humans thrived in the unpredictability of emotion. Panic became a tool, improvisation became a weapon, and every act of courage amplified the chain reaction that swept through the city. A street corner exploded in activity. Children who had been hiding now helped guide civilians to safety. Citizens armed with kitchen knives and tools improvised traps for the alien drones. Soldiers moved in unexpected patterns, luring drones into ambushes that were improvised in real time. Elias felt a surge of pride and sorrow. They were winning, but every victory was tempered by loss. Lieutenant Kira, a communications officer who had coordinated evacuations, fell in a firefight, saving dozens of civilians. Elias clenched his fists, whispering a vow. "Their sacrifice will not be forgotten. We will survive for them." Mira's voice cut through the chaos. "Captain, they're overcompensating. Their precision is faltering. This is our chance." Elias nodded. "Push forward. Every sector, every street, fight like humans. Confuse them. Frustrate them. Live." Liora watched as her drones orchestrated unpredictable patterns, creating phantom movements that forced alien units into miscalculations. The Krithar could calculate speed, trajectory, and force, but they could not calculate intuition, empathy, or the willingness to act against logic for the sake of others. As the battle raged, a sense of unity swept through the defenders. Soldiers fought alongside civilians. Strangers helped strangers, and even the frightened found courage in each other's determination. Every act, no matter how small, became part of a larger pattern that the Krithar could not comprehend. Hours passed, and when the dust settled, the city had endured. Several drones lay disabled, others had retreated. The human cost was high, but the message was clear. Humans were not predictable. Humans were not machines, and humans would not bow. Elias, Mira, and Liora met atop a rooftop overlooking the battered but resilient city. Elias's voice was hoarse but firm. "They learn fast, but they don't understand the human heart. They can't calculate courage, hope, or sacrifice. That is why our strategy always confounds them, because humans don't fight like machines. We fight like humans." Liora's gaze swept the horizon. The Krithar ship still hovered above, immense and unyielding. Yet for the first time she sensed hesitation in their patterns. "They're learning, but slowly, too slowly." Mira smiled faintly. "Every victory, every act of defiance, it teaches them too late. By the time they adapt, we'll have adapted again." Elias turned to them both, eyes fierce. "The Krithar think strategy is enough. They think calculation equals victory, but they have forgotten one truth. Human spirit cannot be measured, predicted, or destroyed. And until they learn that, they will always fail against us. As dawn broke fully over New Arcadia, the city stood battered but unbroken, alive with courage, hope, and the unshakable certainty that humans, fragile, passionate, unpredictable humans, would never surrender. And above it all, in the silent pulse of alien ships, a lesson began to sink in. No matter how precise the calculation, no matter how advanced the machine, no algorithm could conquer the heart of humanity. The city was awake in a new way. Dawn had burned away the smoke of the previous night, revealing streets scarred by conflict but alive with purpose. New Arcadia's defenders were no longer scattered pockets of resistance. They were a network, a living organism of courage and ingenuity, moving in patterns no alien intelligence could fully comprehend. Captain Elias Veyne surveyed the city from the command tower, eyes scanning a landscape that had once been ordinary, but was now a crucible. Reports flooded in. Each sector had organized itself, improvised defenses, and communicated through a combination of technology, signals, and sheer human instinct. The Krithar had attacked with overwhelming force, but humanity's chaos was proving stronger than their calculation. "Sir," Mira Solen said, pointing at the holographic map, "we've identified critical nodes in their drone coordination. If we target these, we can disrupt the hive network, temporarily blind them." Elias nodded. "Do it, Liora. Your drones will lead the disruption. Soldiers and volunteers will exploit it. Every moment counts." From rooftops and alleyways, Liora Keene launched her fleet. Flicker, whisper, blink, and dozens more darted between alien units, emitting pulses of light and sound that confused sensors and scrambled signals. For the first time, the Krithar drones were disoriented, reacting in delayed, fragmented bursts instead of precise, coordinated attacks. Human squads surged into action. Soldiers, civilians, even children using improvised tools, struck at the disoriented drones, forcing retreats, destroying units, and reclaiming critical ground. Each act of bravery amplified the effect. It was a dance of chaos, a symphony the aliens could not anticipate. Yet victory did not come without cost. In Sector 12, Elias watched a team of engineers collapse under a sudden drone strike, shielding civilians at the expense of their own lives. He felt the familiar sting of grief, but also the undeniable truth. Every sacrifice strengthened humanity's resolve. Every act of selflessness defied calculation. Mira spoke softly, as though acknowledging the weight of the losses. "Elias." The Krithar, they adapt fast, but not fast enough to keep up with the human spirit. Every time we improvise, they lose more than machines. They lose control. Elias nodded. Control is their weakness. They think logic rules everything, but humans act from heart, instinct, and hope. They can calculate patterns, but they cannot calculate courage. From a nearby rooftop, Liora observed a drone falter under her control signals, its crystalline body flashing erratically before collapsing. A cheer rose from the streets below, but she did not allow herself to celebrate. She knew the battle was far from over. The aliens were observing, learning, and would strike back harder. Hours passed in relentless clashes. The city became a labyrinth of ingenuity. Citizens guided soldiers, engineers rigged improvised defenses, and Liora's drones wove unpredictable patterns that kept the Krithar off balance. The tide was turning, but each victory demanded vigilance, creativity, and sacrifice. Elias called a brief assembly of leaders and volunteers. "Listen carefully," he said, voice strong. "The Krithar may be stronger, faster, and smarter in calculation. But we are stronger in spirit, in adaptability, and in courage. They think strategy wins wars. We know strategy alone is useless without heart. Today we fight not just for survival, but to show them why human strategy always confounds them." Mira added, her voice resolute. "Every act of defiance, every choice made against fear, every life we save. These are the weapons they cannot predict. This is how we win." As night fell, the alien ships pulsed with dim light above the city, silent observers of the human rebellion. They had faced resistance before, but never like this. Humans were not uniform, predictable, or rational in the way machines assumed. They were unpredictable, emotional, courageous, and resourceful, a force the Krithar could calculate only partially, and always too late. Elias, Mira, and Liora stood together on a rooftop, gazing at the lights of a city that had refused to break. "Tomorrow," Elias said, voice low but unwavering, "we fight smarter, harder, and together. We've shown them what humans are capable of. But the real battle is yet to come. Liora's gaze lingered on the horizon. We've sparked something in them. In ourselves. They can adapt, but we will always adapt faster. And no matter how many they send, no matter how precise their calculations, they can never conquer the human heart. And in that quiet moment, as the city breathed in its fragile calm, humanity realized the truth that would define the war to come. The Krithar could never master what made humans truly dangerous: hope, courage, love, and the unyielding refusal to surrender. The night was still, but beneath it, sparks of resistance burned brighter than ever. The city was alive with quiet tension. Every street, every rooftop, every ruined building seemed to hum with anticipation. New Arcadia had become more than a city, it was a symbol. A fortress built not from steel and stone alone, but from courage, ingenuity, and the unshakable human spirit. Captain Elias Veyne stood on the highest vantage point, overlooking the labyrinth of streets and barricades, and for a brief moment, he allowed himself to feel the weight of what humanity had endured. Soldiers were scattered across the city. Civilians had become warriors. And even the smallest acts, like a child signaling safe passage through a street, were acts of defiance. "Elias," Mira Solen said, joining him, her eyes scanning the darkening skyline. "They're coordinating for a massive strike. All sectors simultaneously. It's unprecedented." Elias's jaw tightened. "Let them come. They calculate patterns, timing, precision. They expect logic, but we will give them chaos. We will give them humanity." In the northern sectors, Liora Keene launched her drones for what might be their most dangerous mission yet. Each drone darted unpredictably through streets, drawing enemy fire, creating false targets, and guiding human squads into positions that defied alien calculation. Every movement was improvisation, every maneuver born of courage and instinct, not pre-programmed strategy. The Krithar descended in perfect formation, their crystalline hulls reflecting the dying light of the sun. Their drones moved with unerring precision, but humans had learned to move in ways that no algorithm could fully predict. Civilians armed with improvised tools joined soldiers, their collective determination forming a network the aliens could not break. Elias led the charge in the city center, using a combination of tactics, intuition, and sheer daring to disrupt the alien advance. Mira coordinated communications, her calm voice cutting through the chaos like a beacon, and Liora's drones weaved through the battlefield, a luminous storm that both protected and inspired the defenders below. A drone swooped down toward a group of civilians, precise and lethal. But a teacher wielding only a flare stepped forward, yelling for the children to move. The flare startled the drone, throwing its sensors off, and it crashed spectacularly into a building. Nearby, a group of engineers detonated improvised charges that sent another wave of drones into disarray. Elias realized something profound in that moment. Victory was not in weapons or calculations. It was in unpredictability, in courage, in human connection. The aliens could adapt to patterns, but they could not adapt to heart. Hours passed in a relentless, chaotic rhythm. For every drone disabled, another recalibrated. For every human casualty, another stepped forward, driven by fear, hope, or love for those around them. The battle was raw, emotional, and brutal, but humanity held its ground. Finally, as night fell, a ripple of understanding passed through the Krithar fleet. Their calculations faltered. Their patterns broke down. They had faced strategy, precision, and logic, but never the totality of human spirit. The courage that defies reason, the love that defies self-preservation, the hope that defies despair. Elias stood in the city square, exhausted, bloodied, yet unbroken. Mira joined him, eyes shining with tears. Liora landed nearby, her drones dimming in their final circuits of service. "We've done it," Liora whispered. "We survived. We showed them what humans are." Elias's voice was steady, resolute. "They can calculate everything, except heart, spirit, courage, and love. Those are weapons no alien machine can ever master, and that is why human strategy always fails against us." Above the city, the Krithar ships pulsed with light, then slowly began to withdraw. Their mission, whatever it had been, was incomplete, their calculations flawed, their assumptions shattered. Humanity had survived not through sheer strength but through what made them human. Civilians embraced soldiers. Children ran through streets with laughter mingled with tears. And for the first time in weeks, New Arcadia felt alive. Not because the battle was over, but because its people had faced the impossible and refused to yield. Elias, Mira, and Liora stood together looking at the horizon where the alien ships faded into the stars. "This is only the beginning," Elias said softly. "They may return, but every time they do, they will face the same truth. Humans are not predictable. Humans are not machines. Humans are unstoppable." And in that moment, the city, scarred, battered, yet unbroken, breathed in its victory, a testament to the indomitable spirit of a species that refused to be calculated, defeated, or controlled. The stars above were silent witnesses to a lesson the Krithar would never fully understand. Strategy alone does not conquer humanity. Courage, hope, and heart do, and in that truth humanity found its greatest victory of all.